Welcome back. We are in Mage. And this is the Rise of Shadows card evaluation stream for the Grinning Goat. And we're using the Lightforge tier list, which has generated all these numbers. Like 99% plus of these cards are just algorithm that we don't really have input to it. About 1% we have input because the algorithm either can't do it or like there's some parts to it that's just like it's just not worth it, right? Even if the algorithm can do it, it takes a long time. It takes a long time to program, and we're just like, screw it. And they're usually like the most terrible cards. Also some legendaries. This card is not so complicated. Right, it's a pretty complicated card, but it was so meta relevant that we actually like programmed everything into it. And it is Conjurer's Calling. I don't pay a lot of attention to what goes on. I don't pay a lot of attention to what goes on outside of like the release of the cards when it's releasing, just so I get a fresh perspective on things. I don't really pay attention to outside reviewers usually, but this card got such a big reaction like when it was first announced that like I think everybody knew. Like people just thought this was blatantly OP. I think this was Crip's card or something. It's 3 mana, destroy a minion, summon 2 minions of the same cost to replace it, and twin spell, like just on top of it. This is going to live up to the hype, I think, and the algorithm thinks as well. It is 165, so I have the line where if it's at 160 or above, I want to nerf the card. And as you see, or I mean, I guess you don't really see, but just to give you a framework, there is currently only 2 cards in Mage above a 165, and that is Flamestrike and Book of Scepters. Those are all overpowered cards. I mean, Flamestrike at one point was actually like reduced in offering rate for being overpowered, and Book of Scepters is just Specters is just it's 2 mana draw like 2 to 3 cards, right? It's ridiculously amazing. Anyway, Conjurer's Calling kind of lives up to that hype. 165. It's on the line though. And the algorithm is accurate, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was actually like around a 160 instead of 165, and then it would be okay. So I don't think it's going to break the game or anything. But if you're just on the side of saying this is one of the top Mage cards, you're right. This is one of the top Mage cards. So let's break down how this card is going to be used, because this is going to define a lot of what the Mage does in this upcoming meta. And that is, one, you use it on your own minions, not on your opponent's minions unless you have lethal. Because if you destroy one of your opponent's minions, your opponent gets the 2 minions that replace it. Instead, you destroy your own minion and you replace it with something that has the same cost. So if you kill a 3/3 for 3 mana, you get back a random 3-drop, which is not as good as generally what you're going to be killing for 3 mana, unless your card has like an ability or a battle cry or something that's already been used. So for the most part, you actually need, and so let's say you don't get any extra value, right? Let's start with the base case. You get no extra value, you're just killing a 3/3, you're summoning something a little bit worse, and then you're summoning another thing. Obviously, that's not a good thing to happen, right? For 3 mana. You don't want like, let's say a 2/3. You don't want 2/2/3s. You don't want to kill a 3/3 to summon 2/2/3s and pay 3 mana, even if you get the card back. So at what point does this become tempo efficient? It becomes tempo efficient when you have approximately a 5 mana card. So if you have a 5 mana 5/5, you kill it, you get 2 randomized 5 drops, which are like 4/5s or something. So now you use 3 mana to get a 4/5, which would normally cost like 4 mana, and then you also lose a stat on something else, right? So at that point, you're tempo neutral. Again, this is without any kind of like synergies or anything, just baseline. So as long as you can upgrade a 5-drop, you are already making it, because you get another spell back, right? You get your Conjurer's Calling back, the non-twin spell version. So anytime you have a 5-drop, it doesn't even need to be hurt, it doesn't need a battle cry, it just needs to be a 5-drop, and you are making a profit off Conjurer's Calling. That's how silly it is. There's plenty of 5-drops in this game. Now, if you count the like add a card back into your hand as approximately 1 mana, then you only need a 4-drop for this to work. Like it's kind of a silly design card, right? That if you just upgrade a 4-drop, you're good, you get your value back. To get something similar, is like Molten Reflection. And Molten Reflection is 4 mana and doesn't add itself back into your hand. Like, sure, it copies all the abilities, you know exactly what you're getting, right? For constructed purposes, it's certainly potentially better. But for Arena, the random just doesn't hurt as much as for constructed. So this card may be balanced for constructed, but it's pretty freaking broken for Arena. And I hope I just mapped out the way why it's broken if you're not convinced. I think most people are convinced. Now, if you add a little bit of a twist onto it and say, oh, I'm actually casting something, I'm playing something with a battle cry. Like, yeah, it's like a 6 mana card, but it only has like a 4/4 body. It's not even like an insane battle cry, right? We're not even talking about like Big Time Racketeer here. Big Time Racketeer, by the way, is back. If you don't remember what Big Time Racketeer is, I will look it up right now. It is a 125 rated card, and it is a 6 mana 1/1 Battlecry summon a 6/6 ogre. So if that 1/1 lives, and then you Conjurer's Calling it, or you're just playing it on turn 9 and you Conjurer's Calling it, you get 2 random 6-drops plus a 6/6 ogre for 9 mana, and you get your Conjurer's Calling back. So this Conjurer's Calling card can go pretty insane. Pretty quickly once you have a little bit of synergies. Or just like stuff that's damage, right? You have like a 6/6, you heard it, it's now a 6/2. Well, you could turn it into a random 6-drop. That's actually an upgrade. And you get another 6. Like, it's pretty crazy. If this is offered anywhere besides the top bucket, it's auto pick. Now, because it is a spell, it has all the bonuses, and it's in the latest expansion, so it gets that bonus too. This card will be everywhere. And if you're a mage, you should be able to expect to draft this card in every single draft. Probably 2 of these in every draft. So your entire freaking draft is now shifted towards needing to draft cards like Big Time Racketeer to try to maximize your Conjurer's Calling. You also do kind of want to be on the board too, because Conjurer's Calling works better when you're on the board. When you're off the board, your opponent can just remove everything you put out until you can't really use this card until turn 9 or 10. So Mage has some weird incentives now just because of this card. This is a game warping card. It is a meta warping card. And assuming Mage is like an average class or above, you're going to have to like very specifically play around it when you're not Mage and facing a Mage, and you're going to have to draft into it when you are Mage, even from pick 1 without it. Okay. And that's not it for Mage. Mage has another very powerful card, 155. So super powerful, but not exactly like broken. Just like could probably use a nerf. 3 mana, 3/2, Battlecry, discover a Mage minion. Again, this is that constructed randomness thing where once things are random, once you're adding random cards, discovering random stuff, these things are always much better in Arena than in constructed. So these cards, when they may try to make them constructed viable, become Arena like boogeymen. So here's Messenger Raven, 3 mana, 3/2, Battlecry, discover a Mage minion. It's pretty good, especially when this Mage minion now exists. You guys remember him? He's back. Faceless Summoner, 6 mana, 5/5, Battlecry, summon a random 3-cost minion. By the way, this card used to be absolutely insane back in the meta. The power creep has gone so far now that this 129 is like barely above average for your deck. Anyway, back to Messenger Raven. You're taking a little bit step back in tempo. It's not really a 3-drop, but you play it at any time. You get a decent sized body, and you get to pick the minion that most matches what you need. There's also not that many Mage minions, so you have a pretty good sense of what you're going to get. Although there's also not like large Mage minions. That's why Faceless Summoner is so good. It's like the only super large Mage minion. The other ones you probably may want is Bonfire Elemental, especially if you have an Elemental. You could also get like Servant of Yogg-Saron, which is not a great card, but it can get you out of like a situation, right? You can pick your synergy cards, like Thorough Arcanist, for example. Like there's stuff. Generally, Mage minions are not big though, so that's a good thing. If Mage minions were big, that would be like freaking insane. Also, you know what's a Mage minion? Messenger Raven. Just saying. It's like, I don't think it's gonna be a fun card. I think it's gonna be a card people just don't like. But it's powerful. Okay. Next card is Power of Creation, 140. So still premium, but not broken. It's 8 mana. Discover a 6-cost minion. Summon 2 copies of it. I don't know why this card exists in Mage. Like, is Mage now we get to summon really big things kind of class? I don't quite understand. But it's here. And like, I guess we're just gonna have to deal with it. Yeah. So yeah, Power of Creation. It's fine. You're gonna pick it. So you're gonna look at Conjurer's Calling now, which requires big bodies for you to do stuff with, to combo with, and then Power of Creation, which creates big bodies and is an 8 mana card. So as the mage, you're gonna be incentivized to be on the board, but yet also go into the late game. Sound familiar? Sounds like Druid. Sounds like Hunter. You're gonna see a theme of this in pretty much every single class going down the line for this expansion. You want to be on the board, you want to play the board, and then you want to be able to go to the late game to take advantage of your stuff. That's the consistent philosophy in Rise of Shadows. And usually that's not what Mage does, at least not for the past few metas. This is like what Classic Mage did. So it'll be interesting to see where Mage goes from here. Alright. What else is happening? Whole bunch of blank space, not a lot of good mage cards. Before we get to Ray of Frost, 1 mana, twin spell, freeze a minion. If it's already frozen, deal 2 damage to it. So with 2 mana, you can just deal 2 damage to something, and it's frozen, like a bad frostbolt. But you can split it up, and if you do split it up, then it just like freezes stuff. So enables a lot of the freezing synergies. Traded basically at 100. It's a fine card. I don't know if it's going to get over bucketed or anything. I don't have a sense of how the twin spells are treated, because some twin spells are insanely good, and other twin spells like Ray of Frost and the Hunter one. What was the Hunter one? Rapid Fire. They're just like okay. All right. Next in Mage, you have Kirin Tor Trickster. Tricaster. 4 mana, 3/3, spell damage plus 3. Your spells cost 1 more. This is an 89. So it's a below average card, even for a random card, and you definitely don't really want it in your deck. If you have to take it, like it's in the 7th bucket, like maybe fine. It certainly works with certain spells, like Arcane Explosion, for example, becomes kind of, I mean, it becomes a Flame Strike. So it becomes a 3 mana Flame Strike, so that's pretty good. But otherwise, your spells being cost 1 more, that applies even if it's not a spell that has spell damage. So it's way too combo-y of a card. Like, I don't like it. It does too many weird stuff. It's not for Arena. Then you have same rating, 89. It is Magic Trick, 1 mana, discover a spell that costs 3 mana or less. Usually, when you're trying to discover something, you want it to be generally bigger. Bigger the better, because you're playing in the late game. Here, you're forced to discover something small. So that's not really the best. So it's not, like, you may think it's better than the score that it's worth, but you can't find big things like this. The biggest thing you can find, of course, is Conjurer's Calling, which is 3 mana. Book of Scepters also works. So on the bright side, Mage actually has a lot of like 3 mana spells that are like Arcane Intellect that actually just draw you cards, and that's all very nice and good. But then you've already spent 1 mana on it, then you gotta spend more mana. It just becomes a really expensive like draw card. That being said, a lot of Mage spells for 3 mana or below they're just good. Next card, Magic Dart Frog, 82. It's 2 mana, 1/3. After you cast a spell, deal 1 damage to a random enemy minion. It's not good. It doesn't look good. There's no secret to it. It's just not good. It's like a really, really terrible version of a knife juggler, of the nerfed knife juggler. Just don't take it. Yeah, that's it for Mage. The relevant cards for Mage that you'll want are all the big cards. So, oh, sorry, there's one more card for Mage that I skipped over. 124, Mana Cyclone. 2 mana, 2/2. Battlecry. For each spell you cast this turn, add a random Mage spell to your hand. It works as a drop. Later on in the game, you can almost certainly get it to trigger to add another spell into your hand. So it's an elemental still. Mage still has an elemental synergy with a bonfire elemental. So it does some stuff. 124 is usually pretty high for a 2 mana 2/2, but the late game applications are good enough to justify it. So overall, you just end up with a whole bunch of cards that do a lot of card advantage stuff in Mage. It just, I don't know, it seems awkward to me. Like all the new Mage cards. Like I feel like it's not going to be fun to play. In terms of the actual Mage strategy, everyone's going fast. Mage still has fireballs. Mage still has the pyroblast. That's all like normal stuff. So Mage aggression is actually going to work pretty well. Mage control always has all the freezes, right? It has more freeze now, has flame strike, but they haven't. What they've gained is volcanic potion and Twilight Flamecaller back. So they're able to control the board in the beginning and then get a lot of like power in the end. And I think that's what they're like meant to do in the arena now. So not like true control, but like mini control. Like control and then card advantage like out. So Mage can sort of do control. If your opponent has a bunch of Yetis or whatever though, then you're screwed as a Mage. So it's kind of all hanging in there on a thin edge. All right, we'll go over the legendaries before we wrap this up. There are 2 legendaries. One is Caligos. Caligos is a 113, so not that great. I thought it was gonna be way higher, like honestly for Caligos. But this one's algorithmed out pretty specifically, and we looked at it a lot, so we're pretty happy with where it is. It's a 10 mana for 12, so pretty low status for 10 mana. But your first spell each turn, including the turn you play it, costs 0, and Battlecry discover a spell. So you'll always be able to use it even if you don't have another spell. And if you had a spell saved up, that spell could be like a Flame Strike or like Power of Creation, and it would be free. So it's pretty good. I think the main reason why it's not better than it is because your future turns, its only extra ability is that it costs, like your first spell costs less, and you're gonna just like run out of spells at some point. So even if it lives, it's not gonna get like value every turn. But yeah, it's an okay legendary. Khadgar is 122, another okayish legendary. 2 mana 2/2, your cards that summon minions summon twice as many. You gotta get the synergies going. Otherwise, it's a 2 mana 2/2, and that's fine, but there's not that many summon minion cards in this arena meta. I mean, there obviously still is. There's always summon minion cards, but for the Mage especially, you don't get that many. You do have your synergies, of course, with the current set cards, right? Conjurer's Calling, that summons minions. Your Power of Creation, summon minions, right? So it's kind of a combo card. But your neutral cards just aren't really, and your like other class minions are just not like summoning other minions. So if you have the right cards, that card's insane. Even if you don't, it's pretty good. 122, nothing to sneeze at. And that's it for Mage. Overall, I don't know what to make of it. I think Mage is too flexible that anytime you give it powerful cards, it's going to be powerful. And it certainly got powerful cards. So I think it's going to be powerful. It's very random. Conjurer's Calling is random. Messenger's Raven is random. Power of Creation is random. These are all random things, right? Mana Cyclone, you're adding random Mage spells to your hand. That's random too. Like all of your good Mage cards are all random. So they're leaning pretty heavily into this whole like Mage is so random kind of like thing. which makes Mage less skillful, and it's a kind of an awkward thing to construct right now anyway. But it's a flexible class. You just really got to lean into the RNG with this class right now, and then it'll be fine. Now, also keep in mind, even though Mage in Ministries of Gadgetzan is one of the potion classes, along with Warlock and Priest, it itself only has Volcanic Potion, which is the small potion, whereas Priest has Dragonfire Potion and Warlock has Spellfire Potion. But they all get that guy that like the Cabal Chemist that summons potions. So again, random. All random all the time. This is Mage. And if you're wondering why I like Druid more these days, Druid has become like what would happen to the Mage if the Mage just did not rely on RNG all the time. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching the Mage one. If you are listening to this in the Lightforge podcast, know that we are supported by our Patreons. Thank you so much to our Patreons. And also thank you guys who are subs on Twitch. That's really like those two things added together are the backbone of where we get most of our funding from. So thank you guys so much. If you're considering donating, please feel free to become a Patreon. We really prefer that more than a direct donation. And if you do direct donations, that's fine too. We accept direct donations on stream or in the form of bits. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we tune in next for our Paladin analysis. I'll see you in a bit.